So what we're doing today, right, there's a 2012 TIG. What we're going to be doing is a steering rack, electronic steering rack. Well, there we go, finally got it in. Electronic steering rack. It's an OE replacement, right? Got it from Euro Tuning, shopped around, checked different dealerships, a whole bunch of different places. Just trying to find the cheaper, older version, but ended up with the newest one either way. So it should be set, ready to go, plug and play. Maybe a little steering axis, indicator, angle, whatever, reset with the steering wheel, and then maybe a coating, I'm not sure. It's not the garage. We're in a shop using Fort Bliss Skills Center here in El Paso, Texas. Right, I got a little easy quick jack I haven't set up yet since I moved in. I figure I'd come down here, use the whole shop. They even got a nice little setup for us to use, right? Tools, standards, metrics, full setup, right? So if you don't have your own, they got a good bit for you to use. This is what $2,200 look like. Actually, I think this was closer to 25, right? This electronic steering rack goes bad. These modules go bad. The harness goes bad. I've got 130,000 on the car right now, right? So 130,000. It's a 2012. Let's see how this is splined. And it's got a flat spot, right? So when you take that steering knuckle off the inside of the vehicle, which I'll try to get that covered in here, there's only one way for that to go on, so that's a positive, right? You can't get it backwards. I'm gonna end up replacing, I'm also doing inner and outer tie rods on here since it's at 130,000. Needed them before this. And then the rack went bad, so I figure I'd do it all at one time, along with an oil change today. Again, shout out to Euro Tuning out of Tampa, Florida. All OE replacement. This is your inner tie rod, right? Inner. This is the boot for it. Then we got the outer tie rods. All OE replacement. I want to say I got these from FCP Euro. They may have been from Euro Tuning as well. It's been a while, man. They've been in my toolbox for I don't know how long. There's a little bit better layout of them, right? Inners, outers, boots. And then, you know, I seen one video, someone used a big ass pair of channel locks to put on, you know, when they did the rack. It was from a dealer. I just used a big ass pair of channel locks, took them off and put them back on. They put the same ones on that they took off. Evidently the customer was just in for a steering rack, but here's what you got as an inner tie rod tool, right? It's gonna go over top of that, but from this way. That's gonna lock in like that. It uses these collars. You find the collar that fits on there and it locks in to here, right? And you can use a breaker bar on it. Got it up on the lift, got it set up pretty well, right? It's just barely, well, it's off the ground, right? Whenever you lift it, put it on the lift, give it a good shake. Make sure it's not gonna wobble. So if it does, it wobbles here and only drops a few inches. So far, all I've done is taken the intake box out, right? So I saw one video. They took the battery, took this tray out and disconnected, pulled the wire harness down out the back side, made it a little bit easier. Another one, guy's working on the ground, drops it down and is crawling in between to try to disconnect the harness. When we get below, these are the two harnesses we got to disconnect for the actual rack. And then there's one for the oil sensor. Battery trays removed. 1, 2, 3. We're gonna come down here, take off this ground. This is the harness. Sorry. This is the harness right here. We're gonna disconnect. We're gonna take this off, right? It comes all the way up here. We're gonna pull this power cable off and then it disconnects right down here. And this harness is gonna come down and drop down the back, so it just makes it easier on me. Right, everything up top's already completed. Pulled the harness down, it's tucked down in there, and I'm gonna raise it up, start attacking it from the bottom, pull the drip shield off, the little splash guard, and start doing all the big stuff. Actually, want to get inside to the steering knuckle, disconnect that. So here's what I'm talking about. Right in there, I'm gonna disconnect, take this little plastic cover off, this column here is a steering column. I want to say there's a 13 mil bolt or 10 mil. We're going to pull that out and then pull this yoke, this U-joint up off the steering rack that's connected underneath. All right, you see that little bolt right there? I want to say that's a 10 mil. Looking at it, I'm going to take that off and then yank that up off that little nub. You can see it pulled up. The rest of the way I'll be able to drop it out when I get the steering rack down. I'll pull right out. Next part, right? I'm going to pull this down because it's connected to this belly pan. The belly pan's going to come out, right? We're going to pull all that out. I'm going to loosen up. I'm going to put some PB Blaster on all the bolts and nuts. I'm going to be taking off, right? So here's the part where my impact couldn't get to because of the transpan, right? But I got a ratchet wrench on there. It's a 19 mil. I got a 6, whatever, number 6 Allen. Counter hold the tie rod in, freaking sway bar link, break it free, break it off, and then all I gotta do is worry about all the bolts underneath for the subframe. All right, disconnect these 13s, this one, and this one. Drop the subframe. I want to say these are for the rack. This one, same thing over here, and off the trans. Got a trans jack set up under there to support it. I'm gonna start taking out all the bolts now. Go ahead and drop this thing down so I can get to the rack. One part I almost forgot. Actually, I did right before I started taking it off. Tie rod in, right? Now you can see if you've seen any of my other videos, I had a short that showed a Mark IV tie rod in. This is the inner tie rod. What I'm holding is the outer. This is the inner, right? If it bounces around like that, I recommend replacing it, right? There's no movement in and out, but with it being this loose, right, that's going to play with your steering control as well. Here we go, transmission stand worked like a champ, man. I'll tell you what, doing this on a lift versus on your back, definitely much nicer if you have the ability to. Even I think this worked out better than if I used my quick jack that I bought like a year ago and I've never set up. But either way, right, if you watch this video a few times from other people, you got a 10 mil right here for this harness that I pulled down from up top, so I didn't have to mess with it underneath. You got T30s right here, and then under here is where the harness goes into. Right, and you got these two harnesses there. So I'll show you the codes I was pulling for this issue, and fingers crossed my diag is correct and it's not a harness or anything that's going on here or this thing itself. Otherwise I'm going to end up having to do this all again for another piece. But this part itself comes on the new rack either way, so in that case I won't. I retract that statement. And as you see, there's two 16 millimeter bolts that came off. You'll see them right there at the base. That pulls the rack right off. All right, I've seen some say keep the steering wheel straight, don't let it spin around because of the sensor in it. It only has a certain parameter. And then I've seen where people didn't. But either way, I use a steering wheel lock. That's also used for alignments. Since I'm right next to the alignment bay here at the shop, went ahead and snagged it, put it in place to hold it in solid while I'm doing this job. When you're putting this back together, these pins here, in case you forget, these are the black ones. They're the ones that actually have like threaded bolt, and then it looks kind of like a centric little pin type bolt. These are fully threaded, full bolts, right? I did tie rods, in or outer tie rods. To take it off completely, you break this free, twist this off, that's the outer. Here's the afternoon. So next day, yesterday, you saw I was at Fort Bliss Skill Center, replacing the steering rack and the TIG. Right now, we're about to head down to Rudy's Brakes and Alignment. Go ahead and get them clean up the alignment for me. All right. When I reset the rack, I put it in. I had to go straight to the right all the way to lock, hold for 10 seconds, and then over to the left, hold for 10 seconds. That resets the steering axis or the steering angle, takes that yellow steering wheel off your dash, puts it back to normal. So like I said, we're gonna go down to Rudy's Brakes and Alignment, have them take care of us, clean up my alignment for me. Down here at Rudy's, 1301 Texas Avenue in El Paso, right? Going to take care of us, knock out this alignment. You got like 3 different alignment racks in there. They do some repairs, some brakes. Looks like they might do some body work too, right? There we go. He's already set the front toe. All right, he's about to move to the back, set up the rear toe. I'm going to keep the camber the same. The rear is like 2.8, 3.0. Front's pretty much even as well. Steering rack alignment is complete. We got it all done. Rudy took care of us, right? The 2 codes that I was thrown was 1634 and 03375. That was the codes I was thrown for the rack. Now I've got one for the implausible signal for J500, which I might just need to code the rack a little bit. I'm not sure. I got to do some more research for that. But the rack is done. I didn't go in as in-depth with all the bolts removed, all that fun stuff that I would have liked to have. Once I started rolling with it, I just started going and wasn't filming as much. But here we go. So now the wife can go back to driving the Tig, and I can get my Audi back. Thank the Lord, right? Next thing I got to do coming up, I'll probably end up doing a water pump on this. This is a VR6, right, with a nice little intake manifold on there, a little shricky. But you've seen in the shorts videos that it's got some clutch issue or transmission issue going on. So I got to get around to doing that bad boy. And then also on the Tig, I'm going to end up doing the intake manifold and cleaning out the head for the valves on that bad boy. Thanks for watching. If you like it, please hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe, right? This is the first time I've mentioned that in any of my videos. Go ahead and smash that subscribe, hit that subscribe button, like the videos, save it, share it, do whatever, all right?